Volume is way up. It's up all the way. Live from Chicago, Illinois, the city's so windy it troubles Trubisky. It's the Pandemic Talk Show, featuring TJ Shanoff and the Stay-at-Home Orchestra. Today's guests, comedian Reena Calm, improviser and healthcare worker Dani Sher, beatboxer Yuri Lane, and now, the #1 draft pick of your Chicago Bears, Justin Kaufman.
Yes, I will take that all day. It's better than drafting punter, right? How you doing, everybody? It's the Pandemic Talk Show live here on YouTube. I'm Justin Kaufman, and of course, joined by Goldie Scott Goldstein and TJ Shanoff. TJ, how are you?
It's the NFL draft. Who the Bears going to draft? When they suck, we laugh. It's the NFL draft. Get ready for another mediocre QB and no tight end.
And you know the worst part too, and I mean, I understand why. I mean, we got Khalil Mack, but no #1 pick. So tonight, with all the fanfare, there's just no Bears. Unless they move up into it, we're not going to be what it will be tomorrow at 4:30 in the afternoon or something like that.
After the last time they moved up, I'm okay if they don't move up.
Yeah. I love it. I also love that Gronkowski came out of retirement to join Tom Brady, because wasn't it just 2 months ago or whatever that the Bears were like, we like our plan. We like our plan. Now we don't need to chase Tom Brady. I'm like, yeah, I like their plan better.
I mean, I don't see the appeal of Gronkowski outside of football. So you know what? Just let the rest of your body break down, Gronk, because the mind ain't working.
Hey, I haven't watched a league in a while. Can we get that other Patriots tight end who kills people? Is he available?
I think he might. He might, in spirit, he's available.
Okay,
obviously,
Hernandez, right?
He's the bad dude, but I mean,
Yeah.
He did have a better post or more active post football career than Gronkowski.
I don't want to spoil the documentary on Netflix for you, TJ.
Yeah, it's we're gonna watch it right after we see Hamilton next week.
Bad news, TJ.
Hey,
we got a great show lined up today. I'm very excited to welcome Reena Calm to the program. Reena, great Chicago stand-up who left Chicago. Now, Reena's story is awesome because she wanted to tour the country, and she found herself having a lot of success playing clubs in different cities. And she kept coming back to Chicago for like a week, a couple days at a time. And she's like, why am I paying rent? So she got rid of her apartment in Chicago, and she essentially put a bed in her car, and she tours the country. But of course, as you know, comedy clubs are not essential. And so now Reena is without a home, sheltering in place in her Prius. So we'll talk to Reena Calm, who I think is in Iowa. Mike said she's in Iowa. So we'll talk to Reena Calm coming up on the program. Also, Dani Sher is going to join us, longtime improviser in Chicago. She's at IO, also Boom Chicago. But, you know, as great as she is on stage, she's better in the ER. She's a physician's assistant at an ER on the west side of Chicago, and she'll be joining us as part of our Frontline segment that we do every week here on the Pandemic Talk Show. And then Yuri Lane, a little beatbox to take us into the 3-day weekend. It's always a 3-day weekend, though, right?
No, it's an 8-day weekend.
It's 8-day weekend.
All right, why don't we do this? Why don't we get to the monologue here on the Pandemic Talk Show? Well, it's official. Illinois stay-at-home has been extended till the end of May. Can you believe this, guys? We got to stay inside. I guess it's good for us, right? Because we got a built-in audience of people who are still wearing their pajamas. I mean, that's good. We take that. You guys bummed?
That's who Scott and I have been playing for shut-ins for most of our improv careers.
Yeah,
so
TJ
this is
and I,
not new.
We've known each other 40 years. I don't think
40 years.
we've ever done a show with our pants on.
No, or for more than 60 people. So mazel tov.
Yeah.
Or for money.
We're in our groove, baby. This is our milieu.
We're Latin alumni. We're used to this kind of success.
Well, let's get into it. Evanston becomes one of the handful of cities in the state to require people to wear masks in public. In other news, Melrose Park is still mulling whether or not to require people to wear shirts.
Sure, in Stone Park, they're debating a law about actually having to wear pants.
There you go, 2 pants jokes, right at the top.
You got
We're
2
killing
things in Stone Park. You got a convent, you got a strip club. I don't know.
The whole state's going to be required to wear masks on May 1st. The protesters have to be pissed off because, you know, the idea that they're now going to have to be required to wear masks on top of not being able to work, it's going to be a free-for-all. Although most protesters like to wear masks to protect their identity. So what do you do in that case? Do you protest the mask or do you take the mask off? What do you do? So,
hasn't Rockford been all masked since like 78? Did I read that? The clock
thing I
tower.
kept
and all
Started
that?
with Cheap Trick. It's a Rick Nielsen thing. Rick Nielsen wore a mask. Rockford said, "We're with him."
Where with that? Frankly, I'm glad I kept my Hillary Clinton mask from Hollywood or from Halloween a couple of years ago, and lock her up, that kind of thing. The dumbest mask ever. All right.
Yes.
Chipotle. This is a good story. Chipotle, like Chipotle stories. Chipotle settled a lawsuit this week that ultimately says, yeah, our food made people sick. That's essentially, which would be a great billboard if you think about it. We used to make shitty food that made you sick, but now we have queso.
It wasn't shitty food. It's not shitty food. It's good
Right.
food. It's really good food that sometimes makes you shitty. I just
There
want to
you
be
go.
clear about that.
Right.
Brought to you by Chipotle.
Yeah. Illinois Republicans are pushing the governor to relax the stay-at-home order for some type of businesses. So that would include golf courses, hair salons, and state parks, just to name a few. That list just feels like it was written by one Downers Grove lawmaker on the DL. I'll tell my wife I'm going golfing. She'll go to the beauty shop, and then I'll go with my lover to the state park. It seems all those things should be essential. Signed, everyone. Yeah, it feels like this very specific ask.
There's nothing like a hand job at Starved Rock. Hi, Mom.
This is good. This is that we need to make state park hand jobs an essential business. That's what you're saying. It's very interesting. I saw this last night. Our buddy Max Temkin, who was on this show last week, he put it up on Instagram, and it's kind of been going around. But it's perfect for the protesters that have been protesting to stay at home. He essentially puts, they aren't protesting to get back to work. They're protesting for you to get back to work, which I thought was very thoughtful. The idea that everybody wants all these places to open up, but they only want that for themselves to get their hair cut. But the people who cut the hair have to go and be in harm's way. Interesting.
Or in harm's woods.
Harm's woods, right.
Are either of you two going to risk someone else to get a haircut? Or
Look at me. I don't like spending the money on a good day.
I will say this, where it's going to draw the line for me is if wigs are required in public. You got to wear a toupee in public. Then I feel like we're going in the wrong direction. I'll go with those. I'll go to East Lansing myself and hit those protests at the Capitol building.
East Lansing, home of Irvin Magic Johnson.
That's right. And finally, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany chastised Twitter users for not respecting Trump by calling him President Trump, despite her previous tweets about Barack Obama, without calling him President Obama. When asked to explain the difference, McEnany replied, simple, Trump's not black. Hey, how about that?
Never wore a tan
Because most of them are racist. Yeah, Fox News. Idiots. Oh, are we on?
Live on the tube. There you go. That's our monologue for today, April 23rd, 2020. We're having fun as we always do here. Just so you know, programming note, we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday live on this Zoom, which is broadcast on YouTube. So you can join us Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We had a great lineup next week, man. Wow. Including today, but next week as well. So people are starting to line up to be our guests on this pandemic talk show, which has some legs now that we got till the end of May to stay at home. My first guest on the pandemic talk show, and it's exciting to have her, is touring the country as a successful stand-up, but she has no home. She used to live here in Chicago doing stand-up, but she got rid of her apartment, and she lives out of her car going place to place. And now that the comedy clubs have been shut down, what is she up to? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Reena Calm. Reena, welcome to the pandemic talk show. This is our dance when we don't see her yet.
Okay, I think I got it.
All right, here we go. Yeah, there she is.
Hey,
Hello, hi.
I love it. I am so, I don't know, the minute that a guest comes into the screen and it's a success, I'm like a kid in a candy. I'm like, yay, yes, we made it. Serena, good to see you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, good to see you too. I'm still figuring out all my buttons here, but I see you.
Okay, so where are you right now?
I am in my estate which is parked outside of a very nice lakeside motel in Okoboji, Iowa.
Wow.
I'm really psyched that it worked out to be here. I'm actually going to be relocating to St. Louis this week, and I'm not sleeping in the car while I'm here, but
That's
I
good.
could, as you can see.
Well, I've
that a
talked to
full
you
bed?
before.
It
Yes.
is. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, what's your definition of full? Do you mean like
So give us a quick. So this is your living arrangement. You stay at other places in the hotel, and when you have the funds, but behind you is really kind of home calm, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just my space. I'm actually going to be putting out a video that's like a more in-depth tour of the whole setup here soon. But what you can see here now, it's pretty empty actually right now, but what this bed is big enough for is one human person to have actually a good amount of space. And then I've got my merch on the other side. So I curl up with my merch every night, and it's really only something I sleep in or used to sleep in when I was like in the middle of a long drive. It's
Yeah,
not like
right.
a nightly thing. There is no, a lot of people, downplay the benefits of living in a car, but I try to stay optimistic, and I might not have a kitchen or a bathroom, but I do have 4 doors. Uh, so that,
Well,
does your house have a horn? Okay, I don't know who's around, but
Well, you know, we've talked before just about the concept of what you want to do is getting rid of your apartment and touring and just following you on social media. I mean, it's every night. You can be in Tulsa one night and Iowa the next, and into Vegas and up into the Pacific Northwest. I mean, you've been doing it. How has obviously right now puts a little bit of a crimp in your plans, but how have you adjusted to the fact that you no longer are able to go gig to gig to gig to gig in this lifestyle?
I'll say this, probably the funniest thing I've written all week was when I wrote on my to-do list yesterday, write jokes. Because there's so many. I mean, when comedy was happening, it was fast paced, but I enjoyed it, of like the challenges every night of figuring out not just like the logistics for your gig or what material you're going to do, but where you're going to sleep that night and whose house you're crashing at, or if the comedy club has a condo, if there's like, it's so many day-to-day logistics that I actually found it, instead of a struggle, to be something that helped me feel like in the moment, because I had no choice. There was so many moments happening at once. So in that way, it's actually, how I'll put it is that dedicating my life to comedy has actually very much prepared me for doomsday. I'm doing okay with it. Yeah, everything was kind of changing actually a lot. Since November, all of my tour dates kind of got flipped around so much with so many like last minute rearrangements that I'm used to kind of coming up with a plan, but yeah, this is the least I've had planned in a long time. So
Yeah, well, I would just wonder about, because there's a lot of isolation for you. You're driving from gig to gig to gig, and then there's this burst of connection. You're
oh,
not
yeah.
only with the audience, but with the other comedians, and you're able your network and your experience has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. But in this moment where now you're just back to isolation, is that tough to lose that connection? That end of the drive is this connection and this moment that you have at the place.
I've been saying this for years. Nothing ruins comedy like an audience.
We know that feeling.
You're here.
I always say if they're having fun, they're having fun. I definitely, I miss it so much, and honestly went through a real wave of it's this really weird time where nothing is funny, but everything is funny, So at first, when I started seeing the shows without an audience being recorded, especially like Colbert's show, oh, I couldn't even talk about it without crying, just because of how it's like, when you do comedy, the whole reason I think that most of us are driven to do it is because you're able to make other people feel good, even for just a joke's length or a few minutes or an hour, if you're lucky. And when you don't get to feel it working, it's kind of like there's this like obligation as a comedian to like, okay, I've got to like make people laugh, but I don't know if they even are, and I don't know how to do that. So I think we're all kind of in this. You guys are doing a great job. This is an awesome production.
I think we would probably be doing this without a pandemic because we're
just be doing it on the phone.
Got a job.
And that's, one of the great things about improv is you don't need to make anybody laugh. You call it art and you just hope.
That's right. Well, Reena, what can we do? I usually end any conversation I have with you with like, Reena's going to be at the National Comedy Club or whatever it might be. So what do I say? What do I do to promote you right now?
You guys have already done so much just by having me here. Listen, when YouTube calls, you answer, okay? You guys know this is not a real improv phone. I have better training than this. I come from Chicago. I know I'm also going to drop it. I'm going to drop it. Where did it go?
Good to go. Reena Calm, the great stand-up comedian who is going to be relocating to St. Louis, which is good for the time being. And we will catch up with you. Reena, thanks for joining us.
Check out my special on YouTube. I will say that is the real thing. While you're on this channel, check out my hour special.
There you go. Reena
Enjoy
Calm.
the arch.
Thanks so much, Reena. Good luck.
Bye, Reena.
All right. There you go. Bye. I can talk to Reena all day. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I don't know if I can only speak for myself because you guys speak for your own bullshit, but I don't know if I'd have the guts and the balls to do what she did, to say I'm just going out. I am full on comedy, doing show to show to show to show to show.
Wouldn't you be panicked sleeping in your car? Like, especially in Okoboji, Iowa, isn't that where people go to kill people in cars?
That's like a Ted Bundy town.
Yeah.
It's like a prime Ted Bundy town.
Well, you can find her special, which is on YouTube, and then follow her.
Sorry, Reena.
I love the throw.
She's all over. Follow her on Instagram, and what I loved about it is that she was so good at like really being in the moment. She would she put Instagram and stories about what shows she was at in some small town in Mississippi, and it just gave you a nice flavor to comedy culture in different states. I really liked it. So hopefully we can get back to that, and Reena will be a big part of it. All right, we'll take a quick break here and get a read from Goldie, and we come back. Dani Sher is going to join us, so stay with us.
Off Their Plate is a grassroots nonprofit that partners with impacted chefs and restaurant owners to provide meals to healthcare workers on the front lines of our fight against COVID-19 and provide economic relief to the restaurant workers affected most acutely by the pandemic. They're working in Boston, San Francisco, New York City, Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, Chicago, DC, Philly, and Seattle, and so far have delivered more than 23,000 meals across the country, including 1,900 right here in Chicago, where they work with 7 restaurants and 20 health facilities. Anyone interested in more information can go to offtheirplate.com. That's offtheirplate.com. And as always, all information about these reads will be in the comments. And back to you, Justin.
Yeah, all right. All right, our next guest I'm excited to introduce because she has been a longtime improviser at I.O. and she boomed Chicago as well, and Amsterdam, which is pretty awesome, and loved partying with Boom Chicago guys back in the 90s when we were in Edinburgh, Scotland, doing the Schadenfreude shows. But Dani Sher has been, she does Armando, she has so many different shows at I.O., but that's not even the story. The story is that what she does for her day job, but she is a physician's assistant at an ER on the west side of Chicago. And she joins us now as part of our Frontline Salute segment that we do here. Dani Sher, welcome to the Pandemic Talk Show. Getting close.
Will it happen or not? Will we have a guest on camera?
Hello, am I here?
Almost. Yeah!
Yay!
You know, my favorite part of this show is just waiting for the guests to show up. Hi,
Like
Dani. How you
coming
doing?
out of the birth canal. I'm here.
You have been a longtime improviser in town, and we want to talk about that. Of course, you know all these fellas on the program, but you have your day job is really what you're doing. Let me ask you this: the first question: which is more difficult, being on the front lines or doing a Herald?
Oof. Is Sharna watching the Herald?
Never.
No, I mean the front lines, it's been challenging. It's definitely like a challenge to work on in the ER right now, but sticking to that Herald form is not easy.
Well, what do you do? What's a physician's assistant? Let me start there. What's a normal thing that you do on a day in the ER?
A physician assistant, we basically have like a master's in medical science. We are, we're treating, we're diagnosing, we're doing everything, that you would expect a physician to be doing. A lot of times we're called physician extenders because we kind of can manage a bunch of patients while, the doctor's doing other stuff. So that's pretty much what we're doing now. We're just, what I've been in the same ERs for 12 years, and now it's all these patients that we're seeing are, mostly COVID. So
what do you, because I love having this frontline segment because we can get it from the source. But when we see all the news sources about proper PPEs and not having enough tests or not having enough supplies, resources, is that a real thing, or are you being taken care of in the ER?
That was a real concern at the beginning. We, when this was all getting started in March, it was a real concern. We were thankfully supplied lots of PPE, and right now at Mount Sinai and St. Mary's, we're good. So that's a big relief.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's definitely scary. My colleagues that don't have it, in other facilities, it's very frightening to think about.
Yeah, and a lot has been made too about how the hospitals are setting up. And I'm fascinated by this, about trying to make sure that there's one area that will be responsible for COVID patients. And also, they're obviously doing arm's length on non-essential stuff. So, I mean, you have to reorganize the way that the hospitals work, right?
Oh yeah, there's been a reorganization of so much in medicine right now. We have people coming in, going to a tent if we think that they're, suspected COVID, but that could probably go home because we don't want them to ever enter. But at the same time, if there's somebody sick there, obviously we need to have them come in to stay in the hospital. So yeah, there's that. There's a lot of things that are reorganized in terms of approaching, and we've always been trained to rush into a room where somebody's crashing, and now the training is that you can't go into that room until you have your PPE on. You can't get exposed. So it's kind of like, is that person's tanking? I need to get in there. But it's like, no, you have to take a second. You have to get on your respirator. You have to get on your gloves, your gown, and then go in. So it's definitely fighting your instincts in a lot of ways. But
yeah, I wonder about that, just because you see people, and we've seen these protests of people want to get, stay at home, all that kind of jazz taken care of or relaxed. But I always think about the people who want to go in with their families, and they can't go into the hospitals anymore. They can't go into the ERs. Do people understand that? Are people understanding why that's in place? Or do you have to sit there and spend any time going, here's what's happening in the country right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, I'd say 80% of the time people are like, oh yeah, absolutely, I understand. I mean, even when it's heartbreaking, when it's somebody who's, you're telling them that they can't come in to be there with a dying relative. That's the heartbreaking part of it. But most people understand when it's like, oh, my dad wants a sandwich. Can I bring him a sandwich? And it's like, we've got sandwiches in here. I'll get him a sandwich, and then there's a small percentage of people who are like, why can't I bring him a sandwich? I'm like, well,
he likes my sandwiches, right?
Yeah.
Dad's got to have bone of beef. What do you want? Give him a break.
Dip it and
So
put the hot peppers on.
I know this is a kind of a strange question, but improv trains us to be in the moment. And how I know it's dumb to say, well, how has improv helped you like in the ER, but is there something to the idea of trying to stay in that moment and stay present as opposed to thinking about some of the doom and gloom that's all around?
Oh no, that's not dumb at all. I mean, it's like, I can't even, I think of a day where I don't feel like my background in improv has helped me in the ER, and that's like not even this current pandemic is no exception. I mean, it's kind of like you can't change it. There's something that you have to face. You have to go with it, and it's not like you can walk off stage. I mean, I'm not gonna quit my job and leave the emergency room after 12 years. It's it's like you have to yes and this situation and still be a good listener and be present for these people that you're talking to. And
do you want TJ and I to just do a walk on when you're in the ER sometime and just walk through your scene?
Just to throw me off, I think that'd be really, really good.
I mean, 2 months ago we were doing a show.
I know, I missed it. Why can't we go back? So, but yeah, I think improv training is like, it's key, especially in the emergency room. The ER, I've always said, is like the improv comedy of medicine.
So, Dani, along those lines, what's more likely to kill an audience member, short form or long form?
Oof, I don't know. I think probably, I don't know, a long form I think can be a slow death.
Yes.
Well, Dani,
It's an art form.
We'll be front and center when the parade happens, and we'll break all social distancing rules for when all the frontline workers come through, when the mayor and the governor put this together, and we will be, of course, applauding you and your work on the west side at St. Mary's.
West Side.
This is
Everybody's
Dani
going to be doing state park hand jobs like crazy then.
Sher. Yeah, I just can't wait.
It's a Southern Illinois tradition.
It's a tradition, and we can't wait to get back to that tradition. Dani, thanks for joining us. I
Thanks
appreciate
so much, guys. Bye.
it. Hey, all right. That's awesome.
Bikes, so we can take little rides.
Does your family get annoyed that you talk only into the microphone?
Yeah, she's like, put the microphone down when you're speaking. Should I not have the microphone?
No. I love it.
You like the microphone, yeah.
I know. I like the microphone, but I just have this vibe of you being like, honey, is the laundry done?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the time, we're, before the pandemic, we would take, walks, and I would you beatboxing, and Rachel would say, Yuri, you've been beatboxing for 15 minutes. Can we have a conversation? And it's just second nature. It's second nature.
I know. I love it. Yuri, how are you dealing with the fact that, because beatbox, you were part of the beatbox, I guess you call it championships and the tournaments. But
Yeah, it was the Midwest Beatbox Battle.
Yeah, right. And you've also, obviously done stage show after stage show. We've done shows together. So how are you adjusting to this world without a live audience?
It's challenging. I mean, it's brought on a lot of inspiration to start to create work at home. I came out with this beatbox mixtape, and so I've been trying to spread the word about my music. I'm, as you said before, I'm not a restaurant owner, but I appreciate that.
What would I call you? Restaurant?
Chefs at Fancy Plants Cafe. Okay. So I've just been honing in and just cooking up mad plant-based deliciousness.
What are you? Are you the chef over there? What are you?
Yeah, I'm one of the chefs.
Got it.
They're still open. They're doing all their stuff online right now, but I'm holding it down at home. We canceled the dinners because we're doing these fancy dinners during the weekends, and hopefully, sooner or later I'll get back and can cook for the people.
There you go. Well, Yuri, I want to get a performance in for you. The one thing I will say too is just you have, you make a lot of your money and doing arts advocacy and arts teaching and teaching in residencies and all that kind of stuff. You've been, I've seen you working at the Chicago Children's Museum and or the one time the great show that was at Red Moon, which I remember seeing you at. But so how are you adapting now that some of that stuff is dried up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. I filed for unemployment, and it's been an issue. I've done a couple of Zoom beatbox classes. I've been teaching at Chicago Children's Theater, and I think we're gonna start doing some Zoom classes in May. Yeah, that's kind of about it. It's definitely it's a new world, a new normal. We got to build a new world together. So we have to adapt, and I'm going to definitely start working on a new theatrical show, Man versus Machine, and start kind of getting that going and begin to perform live virtually.
Well, what I love about you is I feel like you're prepared, because even as we were doing live shows together, you already had a presence on YouTube, and you were doing things with harmonica beatbox that you were already developing an audience online. So it might be an easier transition for you to go straight to that.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a fan base and a lot of support from Facebook friends and YouTube. I had kind of that run on YouTube for a while. I'm not really YouTube. Unfortunately, I was hacked 4 years ago, and I can't get access to my YouTube channel.
What?
Yeah, I got 15,000 subscribers, 15 million views on YouTube, and I can't get back to it.
So they're just getting constant beatbox videos about Viagra.
Yeah, but that's okay. That it doesn't bother me. I'm really all about Instagram. you know, I like to post my vegan creations and do music videos. And so now, you know, on Facebook Live, I'm going to start this live performance journey for the people.
All right. Well, speaking of live performance, Yuri Lane, we can find you as Yuri Lane on all the different channels. But here you are performing live on the Pandemic Talk Show. Here's Yuri Lane with some beatbox.
Thank you. So I got my microphone, I got my loop station, and I got my harmonica. So let's begin. All right. Don't stop. Here we go now. 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 And it goes a little something like this.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah, give it up. Yes,
man.
there you go. How about that? Yuri Lane, beatbox sensation here in Chicago. You can follow him at all the social medias, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Yuri Lane, yurilane.com. Yuri, awesome to have you, man. Thank you for that performance. Awesome as always. Great to see you, man. Talk soon. There he is. All right, that's going to do it for the Pandemic Talk Show. Thanks to Yuri Lane, Dani Sher, and of course, Reena Calm. I'm Justin Kaufman for Goldie, for TJ Shanoff. We'll be back next week. Horatio Sands, Michelle Lamore, Robbie Folks, Psalm 1, Alpina Singh. We got a ton of great guests coming your way on the Pandemic Talk Show. So stay with us. We'll see you Tuesday.
Goodbye, everybody. We never know if we're off.